My name is Maxine Tapia. I was the same age I am now when everything finally broke, quietly, painfully, and all at once. The sound I remember most isn't the pain, it's the crunch. Metal collapsing in on itself, tires screaming as my car slid across an ice-slicked road no one had bothered to salt yet. It was early February, one of those Midwest snowfalls that looks harmless until it isn't. I wasn't speeding, I wasn't distracted. I was driving home after picking up medication for my mom. She hadn't even asked me to. I just remembered she was running low. That irony still makes my chest tighten. The back of my car fishtailed. I tapped the brakes, trying to steady it, but instead the world turned sideways. The front bumper slammed into a utility pole. Airbags exploded. My head snapped against the window so hard my vision went white. For a second there was nothing. Then ringing. Then silence. When I came to, my mouth tasted like blood. Glass sparkled in my jacket like it belonged there. My left leg wouldn't move, not numb, just wrong. Deeply, unmistakably wrong. An older couple had pulled over. I remember their voices shaking more than mine. Someone called 911. When they asked my name, I tried to smile. Maxine, I said. That was all I could manage. At the hospital, they ran scans. Torn ligament in my left leg, heavy bruising along my ribs, a mild concussion. The doctor smiled like he was delivering good news. You're lucky, he said. I lay there alone in a hallway bed, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, my phone resting cold in my hand, and wondered who that sentence was meant for. I didn't call my parents, I didn't call my brother or my sister. I figured they'd notice. Our family group chat never shut up. Memes. Someone's dog doing something dumb. Last-minute plans that somehow always ended with me covering the cost. I assumed someone would check in. They always did. When they needed something. So I sent one message. Please help. No explanation, no details, just 3 words. Because when someone like me, the one who always shows up, who handles things, who fixes everything, says that, you'd think it would matter. It didn't. No reply, no call, not even a question mark. 4 hours later, I was in a wheelchair in the hospital lobby, waiting for the cab I'd ordered myself, when my phone buzzed. Not with concern. With a notification. My brother had posted a photo on Instagram. Our parents, my sister, him, even his new girlfriend, whom I'd met once. All of them standing in front of a stone fireplace, wine glasses raised, tagged at a cabin 3 hours north. The caption read, "The family's complete." I stared at it, still wearing a hospital gown, an ice pack strapped to my knee. I wasn't tagged, I wasn't mentioned. I read the caption 3 times, waiting for my brain to reject it as a misunderstanding. It didn't. The comments poured in, heart emojis, laughing faces. Someone from church wrote, "Beautiful family." My mom replied with a heart. That night, I took a cab home alone. I crawled up the stairs to my second-floor apartment one step at a time, sitting down between each one because my leg wouldn't hold me. I hadn't eaten since the night before. The fridge was empty. No one offered to stop by. No one asked if I was okay. 4 days passed. I didn't text again. I didn't say a word. I lay in bed icing my leg, heating cans of soup, replaying that photo over and over, trying to figure out what I'd done wrong. On the 4th day, I finally opened my phone. 53 missed calls. All from them. And a Venmo request from my sister. Auntie $600. Cabin weekend. Like nothing had happened. Like I wasn't limping through my apartment with a torn ligament. Like I hadn't asked for help and been ignored. Below it was a message from my dad. "We can't fix this without you." That was the moment something inside me snapped. Not in anger, in clarity. I opened Venmo, typed 50 cents, and added a note. "Consider this your down payment for karma." Then I hit send. I leaned back and laughed, not because it was funny, but because something had finally clicked. They didn't forget me by accident. They just didn't care. And if they didn't care, I owed them nothing. The silence after I sent those 50 cents was almost peaceful. Almost. I expected outrage, a storm of texts. My brother blowing up the group chat the way he always did when something didn't go his way. My dad calling with that sharp, disappointed tone. He reserved for moments when I stepped even an inch outside my assigned role. Instead, nothing. Just a strange, eerie quiet. Curiosity got the better of me. I opened the family group chat. It was still active, messages scrolling, plans forming. Just without me. They were talking about a wine tasting the weekend after the cabin trip, joking about who would drive, arguing over reservations. My name didn't appear once, not as a question, not as an afterthought. It was like I'd been edited out. By Friday morning, the quiet cracked. An unknown number called me. I let it ring. Then again. Then again. A text followed, short and clipped. My sister. Are you serious about cutting us off? She didn't ask how my leg was, didn't ask if I was healing, didn't ask if I needed anything. I didn't answer. That was when the panic started. Missed calls turned into voicemails. Voicemails turned into texts. First annoyed, then confused, then desperate. Messages from my parents, from my sister, from my brother, even from cousins who hadn't spoken to me in months but somehow had my number saved. The second money became uncertain. They all sounded the same. What's going on? This isn't like you. Can we talk? By Sunday night, my brother escalated. He emailed me an attachment, an actual spreadsheet, color-coded, itemized, labeled family obligations. Flights he'd booked on my behalf, vacation deposits, utilities, a line that read, Dad's birthday gift, from all of us. Next to every single entry was the same note, Maxine handles payment. At the bottom, 7,000 $7,000 expected. There was no column asking how I was feeling. No line acknowledging I'd been in a car accident. Just numbers, assumptions, entitlement. I didn't reply. I opened my banking app instead. First thing I did was cancel the automatic payment on my sister's student loan interest. She never knew I'd been covering it every month. I'd done it quietly, the way I always did things. No credit, no acknowledgement. Next, I closed the joint account I'd opened with my brother 3 years earlier. The one he treated like a personal overdraft cushion. There was $300 left. I transferred it out. I hesitated at my parents' utility account. I'd been paying their gas and electric bills since the previous winter. They never asked. I'd offered back when I still believed being needed meant being loved. I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I tapped cancel. Saturday morning, I drove myself to physical therapy in a rental car, my legs stiff and throbbing. The therapist asked casually if anyone was helping me at home. No, I said. She frowned, but I didn't explain. That night, I checked the group chat again. My brother had renamed it Family Core. The people left inside it were him, my sister, my parents, and a cousin who still owed me $900. Then came another Venmo request. This one from my dad. $200. Emergency dental for Mom. No message, no explanation, just the assumption. I didn't hesitate this time. I sent 50 cents. The note read, Let her smile reflect her decisions. That same night, my uncle called. Not for money, just to ask how I was doing. He said he'd heard about the accident. I told him everything. He didn't interrupt, didn't rush to fix it, didn't defend anyone. When I finished, he just said, About time you let them stand on their own. For the first time since the crash, I didn't feel crazy. 2 days later, a card arrived in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly. Inside was a $20 bill and a note from my grandmother. For groceries, or something just for you. Proud of you. I cried for the first time since the accident. Not because I was hurt, because someone finally saw me. Once the money stopped, everything else started to fall apart. Not loudly, not all at once. Quietly, like a rope, fraying one strand at a time. The calls didn't stop. They multiplied. My brother started using different numbers. Google Voice, blocked lines, anything to get through. I didn't answer a single one. I let them stack up as voicemails, each more strained than the last. At first, his tone was upbeat, fake, cheerful. Hey, Max, just checking in. Call me back when you can. Then anxious. I just need a little help fixing the truck. Nothing big. The same truck I had bought him 2 Christmases ago. Fully paid, insured, titled in his name. Now he wanted repairs. I ignored it. The next message came from my mom, one of those guilt-soaked texts disguised as concern. Please call your father. He's really upset. I already knew why. Then came the line that he always used when control started slipping. We didn't raise you to be this cold. I stared at the screen for a long time. I wanted to respond, to remind them I'd raised myself into the person who paid their bills, fixed their problems, and showed up even when no one showed up for me. Instead, I put my phone face down. Silence felt stronger. That afternoon, I was at physical therapy when my sister posted it. A black and white family photo from years ago. Smiling faces, arms linked. The kind of image people use when they want to look wounded without explaining why. The caption read, Sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who teach you why you shouldn't. No names, no tags. Just implication. My leg ached under the bandages as I stared at it. The therapist asked how I was doing. I'm fine, I said. I didn't tell her that watching your family treat your absence like betrayal hurts worse than broken bones. Because it wasn't just abandonment. It was rejection. They weren't angry that I'd been hurt. They were angry that I'd become inconvenient. That night, I cut more ties. I closed the backup credit card my brother had linked to my account, removed myself as cosigner on my sister's car lease, called the bank, and took my name off the home equity line they'd used for their so-called legacy kitchen remodel. Every click felt like a door closing. And with each one, the noise in my head got quieter. The next morning, I sent my uncle a pizza. Meat lovers. Extra cheese. No note. He texted back, "Thanks, kid." That was enough. A few days later, my grandmother left me a voicemail. "I heard what's been happening," she said gently. "I just wanted you to know I'm proud of you. Call me when you feel like it. No pressure." I called her that weekend. We talked for 2 hours about her garden, about a neighbor's dog, about the time she caught me sneaking cookies when I was 6. She never mentioned my parents. I didn't either. It was the easiest conversation I'd had in years. Later that week, a coworker messaged me. She said she'd seen my dad outside their house trying to relight the furnace pilot with a lighter and a yardstick. Apparently, the heat had been shut off. I didn't laugh. But I didn't feel guilty either. On social media, my sister's boyfriend posted about canceling their Napa trip. Setbacks, he wrote with a sad emoji. Comments disabled. 2 days after that, my brother launched a GoFundMe. Unexpected hardship. Any help appreciated. The photo showed him leaning against his truck, looking just desperate enough to invite sympathy. There were 5 donations, all under $50. 2 from relatives. 1 from my dad. Not me. Then, finally, the message came. The first one in days in the group chat. "Everyone come to the hospital Friday. We need to talk." A private message followed. "Maxine, please, we can't fix this without you." I stared at it for a long time. Then I sent a thumbs up. Not dramatic, not forgiving. Just ready. Friday came faster than I expected. I didn't dress for war. No dramatic outfit, no rehearsed speech, just a hoodie, worn jeans, and the brace still wrapped around my leg. I limped through the hospital entrance and pressed the elevator button with the same thumb that still carried a faint scar from the shattered glass. Second floor, physical therapy wing. The doors opened. They were all there. My mom sat rigid in a chair near the wall, arms crossed so tightly it looked like she was holding herself together. My dad stood by the window, staring outside like he might find an escape route in the parking lot. My sister leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone, jaw set. My brother paced near the nurse's station, restless and agitated. They looked smaller, older. For the first time, they looked like people without a backup plan. No one said my name when I walked in. I leaned against the wall, letting my weight settle. The silence stretched until my dad cleared his throat. "You got our messages?" I nodded. My mom spoke next, her voice tight. "We need to talk as a family. Things got out of hand." I exhaled slowly. "Yeah, they did." My sister snapped. "Is this about money again?" Something in my chest finally cracked open. "I was in a car accident," I said calmly. "Alone, in a hospital bed. I asked for help." They avoided my eyes. "Not money," I continued. "Help." I pulled my phone from my pocket, my hand steady. 4 hours later, you posted a photo saying the family's complete. My brother muttered something under his breath. Dad sank into a chair like gravity had doubled. We thought you were fine. You always are." "That's the problem," I said. "You never checked." Silence. Then my dad looked up, eyes rimmed red. "We failed you. You shouldn't have been carrying everything." He swallowed hard. "But you taught us it was okay. You never said no." He wasn't wrong. That truth hurt more than any accusation. My brother stepped forward and pulled an envelope from his jacket. Cash. He held it out like a peace offering. I didn't take it. "You'll need it more," I said. My dad surprised me then. "We're selling the lake cabin." Everyone turned to him. "No more leaning on you," he added quietly. "We have to figure this out ourselves." It wasn't redemption. It was bottom. I nodded once. "I'm not forgiving anything today," I said, "but I'm done paying for love." No one argued. I pushed myself off the wall and turned toward the exit. No hugs, no apologies that asked for comfort, no promises. Just the understanding that this time I wasn't bluffing. And for the first time in my life, I walked away lighter. After that meeting, the noise stopped. No calls, no Venmo requests, no carefully worded guilt texts pretending to be concerned. Just silence. And for the first time, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like space. I focused on healing. Slow mornings, physical therapy twice a week, learning how to trust my leg again. I cooked real meals instead of heating soup out of cans. I paid my own rent, filled my own fridge, watched my bank balance stabilize instead of bleed. I bought a pair of good shoes without hesitation. Not because I needed them, but because no one else did. That realization hit me harder than I expected. The freedom wasn't in the shoes. It was in not having to check who needed my money before I did anything for myself. I started therapy, not to talk about them at first, but about why I'd believed being useful was the same thing as being loved. My uncle called one afternoon to joke about the cabin being sold. Always smelled like mildew anyway, he said. I laughed, a real laugh. A week later, he showed up with groceries. Returning the favor, he said. My grandmother invited me to lunch not long after. Chicken salad, lemonade, no tension. Halfway through the meal, she looked at me and said quietly, "You don't have to keep showing up for people who never show up back." That stayed with me. 3 months after the accident, my limp was barely noticeable. My finances were steady. No overdraft alerts. No emergencies disguised as obligations. I booked a trip for myself. Oregon. Foggy mornings. Long walks. Silence that didn't demand anything. Before I left, my grandmother handed me an old photo. Me at 10 years old, mud on my face, smiling like I owned the world. Strong doesn't mean giving everything away, she said. I hugged her. The first real hug I'd felt in months. She warned me they might try again someday, then added, "You'll know what to do." On that trip, I found peace. Then, unexpectedly, my brother showed up one evening after I got back. No warning, no drama. Just a six-pack in his hands and exhaustion on his face. He admitted it, all of it. Said he'd been a leech, said he was selling the truck to pay his debts, handed me a folded printout of the GoFundMe with a note written across it. I'm paying everyone back. He didn't ask for forgiveness. He was just trying. I looked at him and said, "Take care of yourself." He nodded and left. That night, I understood something important. This wasn't my family collapsing. This was me stepping out from being their foundation, so they could finally learn how to stand on their own. Messages trickled in after that. My mom, my sister, my dad, apologies, explanations, promises. I didn't answer most of them, not out of anger, out of readiness, because cutting them off didn't destroy me. It made me whole. They didn't fall apart without me. They just had to learn to exist without leaning on my spine. And that quiet, that calm, uninterrupted quiet, for the first time in my life, felt like freedom.